And today I've got Barry Traylor, one of my dear friends. He and I have worked together over the years for quite a bit. I want to make sure I get his... There we go. Okay. Speaking of memory problems. Sales transformation fail. And I've recently been looking at a few YouTube videos on the funny fails that happen. And sales transformation has been a big topic in our world, because what we have found, if we only sell software, not much really happens. But if we help an organization transform their business and change the behavior as well as the technology, then big things happen. And what Barry's going to share with us today are the main areas where those fail. So I'm going to turn the time over to Barry. We got a lot of questions that we'll go through after his discussion. And stay tuned. We've got a half day today, usually been a full day, but half day we end about 12:30. And let's go ahead and turn Barry loose. Thanks for being with us, Barry.
My pleasure. Thanks, Ken. Great to be here. Thank you for taking time out to be here, and all of you online. Thanks for taking time out from your day. Most precious thing you can share is your time, so appreciate you joining us for our time together this morning. And the fail videos on YouTube are fun, and they're funny, watching somebody else's mishaps. But it's not funny here. A lot of energy, a lot of resource and time goes into sales transformation. It's a term that you've probably heard a lot here at the conference this week. Certainly something you're hearing a lot in terms of the various initiatives and solution providers out there. And we're seeing, and through our research, have seen that there are a number of initiatives that just aren't, delivering results. So I want to talk about sales transformation failures and the things to look out for, potholes to avoid in the road ahead. If you're not familiar with CSO Insights, let me just say very quickly that we are an independent third-party research firm. Been doing this for a couple of decades now. What we research is B2B sales effectiveness, and we survey several thousand companies every year on sales performance. Our current survey that's up, I have a link for that for you at the end of this. Sales management, optimization, lead management, and social engagement. And we wrap up each year with sales compensation and performance management. So in terms of the things that are available, and you may have a sense of this from having walked around the expo floor, there are lots of ways that you could invest in sales transformation, whether it's training or CRM or sales intelligence and so on. Comp management, lead optimization, lots of things you could invest in. At any given time, there are probably 20 different initiatives or undertakings that you could embark upon to improve sales effectiveness. We had one CSO say if she implemented every sales improvement, sales effectiveness solution that was brought to her, she'd be out of business in 6 months. And it's true. At any given time, there are probably a couple dozen things that you could do, but you can't do everything at once. And so I want to talk a little bit about the things that get in the way, and then how you might establish some order of priority to determine what you want to do first. So why do sales transformation initiatives fail? We're coming out in Q4 at the end of this quarter with our CSO's Guide to Transforming Sales, and it kicks off with the 9 reasons that sales transformation initiatives fail. And the first one is lack of executive commitment. And everybody's heard this, everybody knows this. I moderated a panel yesterday with Rogers Communication where they talked about their rollout of Salesforce.com across all of Canada. And the number one key to that working was the active personal involvement of the senior VP of sales across the entire company. And that's the word. It's very easy to measure executive commitment. It's executive involvement. Okay, it's not enough to throw money at this thing. One of my favorite political cartoons I ever saw showed a car with a flat tire. It's like the U.S. economy, and it shows this car with a flat tire, and they always show, a congressman or Uncle Sam in a top hat, and he's throwing dollar bills against the wheel. It's like, it's not like we're not applying any resources here, but it's inappropriate use of resources. And I asked a group, what's wrong with this picture? And somebody said they should be billion-dollar bills. So um, really having skin in the game. And I'll just give you this very quick example because I just thought it was brilliant. And these are the kinds of things that to me are just so fabulous. So they did this rollout of Salesforce, and if you're interested, that presentation I'm sure will be available. They were one of the Surfboard Award winners. But this SVP, again, Rogers Communication, if you don't know them, huge communications company, biggest in Canada across the country, would do things on Chatter. And so one of his things was he put out the first 5 people that post on Chatter will get a free phone of their choice, free cell phone of their choice. You want an iPhone, Samsung, Galaxy, whatever. First 5 people that post on Chatter. Well, guess what? You know, people being on Chatter, it just went through the roof because everybody got, this guy's in here. And so everybody below him, the organization, got actively involved. So those are the kinds of things that simple to do if you have skin in the game. Okay. Show of hands here, everybody's got spare time. You know, and that's the problem is a lot of these sales initiatives don't have a dedicated resource. And so it's like, you know, this is something that somebody's sort of has heaped upon them, and they're not solely focused on this. They're not dedicated to the initiative's completion. A lot of time, there are 3 stages to projects. The first is inspiration, and that's the easy part where everybody gets hyped up and inspired, and, you know, we're going to, you know, 1,000 ships are launched and all that. Where the heavy lifting goes on is the second stage, which is implementation. And that's where you grind it out. And the third stage is completion, which looks good on there. Everybody loves that part. But it's that second part, you know, where you need to press on and carry on, press through. And if you don't have dedicated resources for that, it's very easy for initiatives to stall out. Third is failing to address culture. One of our favorite Drucker quotes, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." Okay? Culture is profound. And if you don't do your initiative in line with your culture, if you're swimming against the tide, it really is not going to work. There are a few here, misunderstanding the role of technology. What we really mean by that is thinking technology is the answer. Okay, we'll just get CRM in here, that'll do it. We'll just get sales intelligence in here, that will certainly do it. And you'll hear all of the vendors say, you know, there's no silver bullet, there's no magic pill. You need technology as an enabler, but it needs to be enabling something, some business problem that you're solving. Another is thinking that training is the answer. Okay, people confuse sales methodologies with sales process. They're different. Another is getting stuck in sales management 1.0. Good friend Gerhard over at Selling Power now has taken over the Sales 2.0 conferences. One of the things we said, or often say at the conferences, is you're in trouble if you have a Sales 2.0 sales force and a Sales Management 1.0 management team. And what's happening in many cases is folks, you know, are doing what was done to them. You know, you sort of have victims of victims. And so, you know, Sales Management 2.0 is, you know, are you getting timely, accurate metrics to managers? Are they coaching? And we have data around all of this in terms of a formal coaching culture versus informal versus just leaving it up to the managers. And part of that formal coaching culture is providing managers with timely, accurate metrics. So is that happening? Champagne dreams, beer budgets. A lot of times people will cut back on, they'll invest in the application, but they cut back on the training or the support, always a mistake, and trying to go it alone. So there are lots of partners. There are, you know, huge resources available here. You should be asking folks, you know, not just the solution providers and partners, but you want to be asking other folks attending the conference and sitting in on the sessions, you know, what's worked and hasn't worked for them. But we can tell you going it alone is another one of the mistakes. And the final one that I'll talk about today is one and done. Thinking, you know, you just do this once and then you're good to go. And I'm an SF native, and I'll just do a shout out now. I'm going to the game tonight. Go Giants. I hope we wrap it up tonight. But one of the metaphors that I love is the Golden Gate Bridge. Okay, it was a marvel when it was built. It's an icon. It's beautiful. It's functional. But, you know, it has to be maintained. And the bridge painters start at one end and get to the other. I mean, they just start here and they work their way across the span, and when they get to the other end, they come back to the beginning and they do it all over again. And that's what keeps that thing in shape and keeps the bridge so beautiful and functioning. And the same thing needs to happen with your sales effectiveness and sales transformation initiatives. It's not just like we're going to do this and now we've arrived. Okay, one of my favorite maxims is, as long as you're green, you're growing. As soon as you're ripe, you begin to rot. So it never ends. Okay, so introduce the SRP matrix, and we'll get on with it here. This is something we've written a lot about. We've been tracking this now for the last several years. We were the featured research in HBR back in 2006 when we first introduced 5 levels of relationship on the vertical axis, from approved vendor through preferred supplier, consultant, contributor, and ultimately trusted partner. 4 levels of relationship on the horizontal axis: random, informal, formal, and dynamic. And again, you can read about these. If you're interested, we'll be happy to send you something. What you'll see are, I talked about this yesterday when we did this. I had been talking about the levels of relationship for the last, well, at that point, 10 years. And Jim wrote an article for Business Week on levels of sales process implementation. And it only took us another 5 years to figure out, we could put these together and do a matrix. So that happened in 2006. In any event, there are a couple of no-fly zones, or what you'll see, grayed out cells. We haven't seen any firms that have implemented a dynamic sales process that aren't at least above the vendor level, the preferred supplier and above. And we haven't seen any firms. You may have individuals that operate in a random, ad hoc way in terms of process and are still perceived by their customers as a contributor or trusted advisor partner. But we haven't seen any firms that can operate that way. So we look at 4 metrics to define 3 levels of sales performance, which we have very handily and cleverly identified performance levels 1, 2, and 3. And you'll see a quarter of them are at performance level 1, 40% here in the center, and just over a third, 35% at performance level 3. And the 4 metrics we look at to define this are percentage of reps meeting, beating quota, percentage of annual revenue plan attained, forecast accuracy, that is the outcome of forecast deals, and total rep turnover. Okay, so those are the 4 that we look at. And you see this distribution. This is of interest, and you can sort of identify where you are in the matrix. And we have, again, performance data in terms of those 4 metrics and many others along with these. But here's the thing I want to show you is about a third of companies were at performance level 1 back 7 years ago in 2007. You can see that's dropped down to just under a quarter in 2013. What I really want you to look at is the green. 17% were performance level in 2003, in 2007, now 35%. It's more than doubled in the last 7 years. So if you find yourself down here, and by the way, most folks are sort of in this range, what that means is you're seeing your competitors' taillights get very small very fast. Okay, that's not the place you want to be. The other thing I'll just say, I didn't mention this yesterday, but it's kind of fun. The question we like to ask is, do you think it's easier to move up or over in the matrix? And in our view, moving to the right is easier because it's a thing you can control. It's totally within your purview. And as I mentioned earlier, when you do that, there's some sort of aerodynamic uplift. We see that firms that get over here also tend to find themselves at a higher relationship. Okay, a couple of final things. Yes. Yes. Yeah, we actually dropped down. You can see it was steadily growing, and then there was a little bit of a fallback from 37 to 35. And some folks, we're gathering data for actually we have 2014 data. We're gathering right now data for 2015. And I'm sorry I don't have that here. But yes, we'll have the data for well, for 24, I'm sorry, the 2015 report will have the 2014 data. We're gathering data. For the SPO, we gather data in Q4, which is right now, and we release the report the Tuesday closest to February 1st. So whatever day that is, it's around February 1st. It's a Tuesday. Yeah, this is interesting. So it'll be interesting to see what 2014 brings us. A couple of things, if you're interested, everybody who takes the survey gets the subsequent report for free. Benchmarking is a thing that we do. Once we have all the data, if you're interested, you can, if you want to know more than just aggregated results, you can buy industry standard benchmarks off of our website. We have those for about 19 different verticals. If you're interested in knowing how you compare, not against everybody in your industry, but the 30 or 40 folks most like you, you can do a peer benchmark. You'll see here, you see your response versus your peer group. This happens to be what percentage of the sales force consistently use the methodology they've been trained on. We've got about, I don't know, 85 or 90 metrics that you would get this kind of feedback on. So, and if you're interested in that, we have a lot of information on our website. Another thing that we do, and this gets back to that initial slide with all the things you could do, here's a way that we approach it, and we work with clients to do so, but something you could also do for yourself, is we plot the level of effort from high to low to do some of these things, and the impact on sales effectiveness from low to high on sales effectiveness, and we call it our sales effort effectiveness, or SEE grid. And what you're looking for are things that are relatively low effort, high impact, and then the final piece is, in the relative cost of those things, which is the size. And so you can see, this is actually from work we did with one client. For them, the first three things that they were going to work on were sales process mapping, bringing in sales intelligence, and doing some training. And not far behind was looking at their messaging. So all of those things are sort of up in this quadrant that, is high payoff, relatively low effort. 82% of the companies we survey already have a CRM system. Okay, if you have low user adoption, to go ahead and replace that CRM system with another one, we think is a relatively low bet. Pretty high effort, pretty high cost. And if they're not using the one they have, the chances of them wholly embracing the one you're bringing in and all the learning curve to go with that, relatively low. Go, next, hold. Red, green, yellow. So, mentioned our survey. We always have a survey up. I talked about the 4 that we do each year. We also do some custom surveys. But if you go to our website, csoinsights.com, you'll see this blue button. Right now, it's our sales performance optimization survey. Click on that button, you'll be in the survey. Again, everybody who completes the survey gets the SPO report for free when it comes out. It's about 200-something pages, 240 pages. And when you complete the survey, you'll immediately be able to download our 2014 Sales Management Optimization Key Trends. It's about a 25-page report. So that's what's in it. And also, I want to point out this gold button. If you click on that and register, you'll be on our mailing list. We put out an ebook every quarter with a handful of interviews and best practices. You'll also be on our mailing list for webinars and other events. So, thanks again for your time.
Barry, I wanted if you'd take another moment. You mentioned the 4 main studies of the year. One of them has some pretty visible impact on the inside sales space. Do you mind reviewing those again for us real quick, walking us through those studies?
Sure. So the 4 studies that we do, Sales Performance Optimization, is our flagship survey. It's in its 21st year. And we look at sales force demographics. How big is the sales force? Growing, shrinking, quota, comp, what's the rep compensation at quota attainment. We look at sales process, sales cycle analysis, CRM, sales and marketing alignment. There are about 10 categories that we look at. What's interesting, we used to have topical reports on each of those. Now we've changed it, so we've got the key trends and going forward, which are the bookends. But we also have sales process and demographics, and then all the other 80-something metrics have been sorted into find more, win more, keep more, grow more. So that's really fun. In any event, each of our surveys starts with, tell us who you are, your name, title, company, and what's your focus, so your role. But are you primarily inside sales, field sales, or both? Okay, and so this SPO is up now. When that releases, this will change from sales performance to our sales management optimization. That'll gather data for a couple of months and releases mid-April. When that is released, this will change to take the lead management survey, lead management, social engagement. That gathers data for a couple of months, releases right after the 4th of July. And then we gather data across the summer and release the sales comp performance management survey mid-September. And each of those has that same sorting at the beginning, inside, field, or both. So between all of them, I think with it, 350 something metrics, maybe 400. So it's all we focus on is B2B sales effectiveness. The only other thing I'll mention, just because I showed this, just so you know, we don't do training, we don't do consulting, we don't do CRM implementation. CSO Insights is never the answer to the issues we raise. And we maintain that because we want to offer data-based, unbiased recommendations.
And I was gonna say that very thing. These guys are neutral Switzerland here. They're the consumer reports of the sales industry in a sense. And I would make sure you get yourself in that database, the opportunities to participate and then receive the information back. We feel strong enough. In fact, their research back in 2005, right after we started our company, was pivotal to our model when they researched the value of the CRM platform in an organization. And so we're very much, in fact, we're hoping to get behind some of their research this year and see if we can help just get the word out, make sure the expansion of those who partake of it and help take the surveys expand. But, we ask all of our presenters a question that I want to run past you. We're here at Salesforce.com. They've had a massive impact in the industry. Barry, why do you love Salesforce.com?
I like Salesforce.com a whole lot. I really like it. We are Switzerland, and each of the CRM folks, and although Salesforce has become much more than just CRM, but they're doing amazing things, and there's a lot to like. There's a lot to love about what they're doing in the community and the ecosystem that they've built and so on. They give a great party. They've got an amazing. You just can't say enough about how they've grown. For when I say we don't love it, we're crazy about these guys, but it's a mistake to fall in love with anything unless you're like going to jump all in, and that's back to the executive. So if somebody had a different service, solution provider. Again, we're not recommending you take them out, bring somebody else, and there are reasons for some of these other folks. But overall, Salesforce, it's an amazing story, it's an amazing platform, it's an amazing application. Mark and the team that they've built here, there's a lot to love about this place. But we'll just restrain that a little bit. Just a little bit. Thanks. Thanks, and thanks for having me in. Any questions? Thanks, guys, and again, thanks for all of you joining us.
Just to remind